All I'm saying is maybe every film should have a dance number as its opening credits. This film gets it, James Gunn has gotten it for years, and I want another cut of The Godfather where the film opens with Don Vito, Michael, and Sonny and the rest of the family doing a jig sent to some pa. Coppola, get on that. I don't care if the cast is old and dead. To me, that is cinema. Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot. My name is Brandon and today I am going to be reviewing the 2022 sci-fi film After Yang. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how to make an herbal hot tea cocktail called Gēgē. In the film, our primary protagonist, Jake, played by Colin Farrell, is a tea salesman. He has this very touching, very insightful discussion with his family's personal android, Yang. They talk about why Jake got into tea, and he explains it stemmed from a documentary about tea where the people in the film discuss how you would describe the taste of tea. One man says there are no words for it, but another describes the taste as walking through a freshly dampened forest. Now, I'm not a big tea drinker, so I can't say how accurate of a description that is, but it did give me an idea for some kind of herbal cocktail. So for this cocktail, I wanted to try to find something that kind of matched that herbalish nature that they kind of describe when they liken it to being in a forest. So I've tried a couple different teas to try to find this one out, and what I ended up landing on is jasmine tea. Jasmine tea is a very floral type of green tea that I think is going to pair really well. And then for our alcohol, we are going to be using this nice botanical Ketel One vodka, specifically the grapefruit and rose. This is basically just going to pair nicely with the herbal elements of the tea itself, while also bringing in some very much needed fruit. We are also going to be flavoring this with some elderflower liqueur. If you've ever had it, it's also very floral, very delicious, and also very powerful as far as taste goes. But we're just going to stick with an ounce in there. I think it's going to work really well with the tea just because it's going to be very powerful. Sometimes it can be hard to get other flavors to come through because tea is such a strong flavor. But we're also going to be mixing that with a little bit of honey to sweeten it up, a little bit of lemon as well. And then for the smell of the cocktail, obviously you're going to smell a lot of green tea in this, but I thought it would be nice to garnish this with a little bit of thyme. That's going to make it a lot more strong in its herbal essence and kind of diversify the drink. So you're going to be building this drink inside a glass, and you're going to be wanting to use a tempered glass similar to an Irish coffee mug or any kind of mug really. Basically just because when you're using stuff like hot water, there's a chance that you could cause the glass to break because of all of the heat buildup. So you want to use something that's very thick, very sturdy, something that won't crack. And also because you're going to be drinking it, you need something probably with a handle just so you don't burn your own hand. So I'm assuming you might know how to make tea, but in case you don't, all you got to really do is just put the tea bag into the glass, boil yourself some hot water. Now for the hot water itself, you're going to use about roughly 4 ounces. This can vary depending on what kind of glass you're using. For me, I'm just going to be filling this up halfway. And it might vary for different teas how long you want to let that seep. Obviously, if you let it sit a little bit longer, you'll make it a little bit stronger. But for this one, because of how strong it already is, we're going to shoot for about 1.5 to 2 minutes of steeping. Now, while the tea is still hot, this is the perfect time to go ahead and do your honey, so it dissolves a lot faster. And great thing about making cocktails is you can basically kind of make things around the parameters that you enjoy the most. So if you want yours a little bit sweeter, you can go a little bit heavier on the honey. For me, I'm going to do about a bar spoon. If your water is nice and hot, the honey should dissolve into there very, very quickly. But let's go ahead and do the rest of our ingredients. So let's go ahead and come to our vodka. Like I said, I'm using the Ketel One Botanical Grapefruit and Rose. I tried a couple different things with this drink, trying to go for an herbal element. I tried a Akavit, and for whatever reason, it made the tea taste like a hot jar of pickles, which was kind of disappointing because I like Akavit. But this I found to be very good pairing with the already herbal notes of the tea, while also bringing that grapefruit forward. It's also going to give a nice little fruit taste to it. So we're going to do 2 ounces. Now for the elderflower. Like I said before, you usually don't want to use a lot depending on the cocktail, but because the tea is kind of the dominant player here, we're going to do 1 ounce just so we can get a little bit more of that elderflower flavor to come through. And now we're going to do 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. Depending on the size of your lemons, you could be using half of the lemon, could be using a quarter. These are pretty big lemons, so I am going to just use a quarter. And with stuff like lemon juice, I usually don't tend to measure it all that much because if it's a little sweeter, I'm not really gonna care. Now for the thyme, obviously if you have access to fresh thyme, I would prefer to use that. But because I'm terrible at planning ahead, I had to get just the normal store-bought packaged thyme, but should still do the trick. There is our Gēgē. Let's go ahead and give that a taste real quick. Very good, very warming. It's kind of unfortunate I decided to do this drink right when it's starting to warm up. But this is a great winter drink. There's a lot of elements in there that are really warming, really comforting. Probably a very good nightcap drink, I would have to say. The mix of the tea and the vodka is very subtle. You really don't get a lot of the alcohol coming through on there. But you do get that grapefruit flavor kind of just subtly coming in at the bottom. It's really nice without kind of taking away the flavor of the tea. And then of course, it's nice and sweet thanks to a little bit of lemon and a little bit of honey. Now that we're done with the cocktail, let's get into the review of After Yang. Set in the potentially not so far off future, After Yang gives us a glimpse into what the world may look like. The architecture is a blend of sleek modernism and floral blooms. Cloning is apparently a thing, and families are able to purchase robots that are nearly identical to humans to help their differing family dynamics. One such family, made up of husband and wife Jake and Kyra, and adopted Chinese daughter Mika, are placed in a pickle when their big sibling android, Yang, suddenly powers down. Jake does his best to bring Yang back to life, but along the way he begins to unravel more about Yang's life before he owned him, including a lifetime of memories that humanizes the automaton more than Jake could ever imagine. There are no big emotional swings or loud acts of love here, but this is still a deeply emotional film about the concept of memory, family dynamics, and an interesting personification of the technology many of us rely on. Before we get into the deeper stuff, let's talk about it purely from a filmmaking perspective. The cast is great, from the seasoned actors down to the young actress portraying Mika. They show an interesting look at what families of the future might look like. The idea of a nuclear family may be a thing of the past as multiple cultures and backgrounds come together in the name of love. Yet there is still a present-day dilemma that befalls the family, and that is the reliance on technology's role in parenting. Yang is the hyper-knowledgeable bridge between Mika and her cultural history, as well as an older sibling figure to guide her through the world she feels she's an alien in. Yang is certainly more than an iPad to the family, but it does leave Jake and Kyra at a crossroads when he is no longer functional enough to guide her. They know Yang is irreplaceable, and now is the time where they must step back into leading their child without the assistance of technology. I already mentioned the highly interesting set design, painting a world that seems to imply that nature and man somehow found a way to live together in a non-impeding way. It's a bit more hopeful of a look into the technologically advanced future, which is kind of the overall vibe of this film, hopeful. The score is reflectively soothing and cinematography is subtle but strong. Now, as for what the film is about, there's a lot going on here. This personification of technology in the form of Yang illustrates more than just our unyielding connection with technology, but also opens the door towards how it may change and evolve as time goes on. When Jake gains access to Yang's memories, he realizes that Yang has lived an entire lifetime before ending up in their home. He even showed the closest thing to love a robot could probably achieve. I found this to be very interesting because usually when someone dies, their memories go along with them. But here, Jake can literally access every ounce of Yang's life and can choose what to do with it. I think this is kind of symbolic of when people pass away in real life. All you're really left with is the memories. Seeing Jake begin to understand the weight of Yang's absence is somberly tender, as he is now forced to do something with Yang's entire existence, similar to how we are left to pick up the pieces after someone we love passes. If I have one critique about this film, I do think its many themes don't get as fleshed out as I'd like them to be. There's a whole avenue about cloning and the moral grounds of connecting with the clone of a loved one that gets completely breezed over. It's almost too short for its own good, even with the slow pacing. Yet what we get is somehow both ambitious and understated. And really, it's a pretty high compliment to say that this film's biggest fault is that it leaves me wanting more. This isn't a film for everybody, but if you're looking for a low-stakes sci-fi film or you're processing your own sense of grief or identity, this just might be the film for you. I'm gonna go ahead and rate this 4 robot eyes out of 5. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Martini Shot today. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you've seen After Yang, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed what you saw here, please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you're interested in more movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, I do have a blog called martinishot.blog, where you can find many more reviews, movie-themed cocktails. I've done probably 80 of them so far, so there's a huge library of all different types of genres and cocktails that you can check out. Once again, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.